Welcome back to the She Thrives Influential Women podcast. I am your host, Lori Murphy, and I am an empowerment coach for women. And for those that are new to this podcast, I'd love to give you a little bit of a background story on who I am and what I do as an empowerment coach. Now, I have talked about this very openly on previous episodes, but if this is the first time you're catching the podcast, I will tell you that I am a recovering alcoholic. I have just about 13 years sober, and my journey in sobriety is really truly what led me down this path of self discovery, healing, personal growth and development, and allowing me to hear my calling. And I have truly feel that I have been called to help women and guide women through their own personal development journeys, whether it's health and wellness, weight loss, whether it's, overcoming fear, which is one of my favorite topics to talk about is overcoming fear, because that's a big part of my journey. But really, it's just I love to help women with all different areas. If it's addiction or if it's alcoholism, if they're struggling with, having struggles with self-confidence and are having difficulty finding self-love and all the things, I am here to help them get through these areas, work on themselves, grow, heal, and thrive in all areas of their lives. And it's just something that I'm very passionate about, and it is my mission to really help women feel good, make them feel even young women, right? Because we all need to hear positive, uplifting things. I really truly believe in the power of lifting people up rather than tearing them down. And I believe that comes from years of myself being torn down and beat down and just, you know, feeling less than. And if I can find it in myself to heal and face my demons and grow and heal, I want to be able to give others that same, support and guidance. You know, I so please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Leave a review. Let's keep this podcast going and don't ever miss an opportunity to catch another episode. It is a real true honor and pleasure to have you joining me here today. But man, I'm going to go right into all the things that are on my mind today. And it is the end of the week. It's a Thursday. And normally I don't record a podcast on Thursday evenings, but my husband and I will be leaving early in the morning to head up to his family camp up in the Adirondacks, where we spent all of our weekends during the summer months, but we're taking a long weekend, for Labor Day. And, you know, we're we're just going to disconnect and we're going to just relax, maybe do some hiking and kayaking and all the things that we just love to do before before the cooler weather comes in. But um so Fridays I normally will do an interview and have another podcast launch, but that will not be the case this week. So I most likely will not have a podcast episode for Monday. Normally I launch a Monday and a Friday. It's going to be a little bit different this week. Um, but next week we will be right back on schedule. And, I have some really awesome interviews coming up. Next week, we will have Solana Lewis back on. She was on last month. She is a world champion power lifter. And when she came on, last month, she talked about powerlifting and her journey. And now she's going to come on and we're going to talk about nutrition. And I'm so excited to have her come on and share some knowledge and educate us on proper nutrition for our bodies, especially if you are a power lifter or working toward that goal. and my mentor and very near oh God, I just love this woman. She is my mentor, my dear friend, Margaret Reinhold. She's going to be on. We just the lineup that's going coming up is freaking awesome. I can't wait. The September lineup for guests on the podcast. You do not want to miss them. So please, please, please hit that subscribe button. And I am really glad that the work week is over. It was a short week, but it was a long week at the same time. And I am just feeling that I'm actually having just like starting to calm down from, feeling a little angst. The traffic on the way home was just bumper to bumper. People are driving like maniacs. It always stresses me out when that happens. And it was just I think we're all just really tired and ready for a nice long weekend. But the patience level, I can even say for myself, has just kind of reduced. And it was more or less during the afternoon time because earlier today I was in a very good mood. I got up and I lifted some little weights while I sent out emails and I did a meditation and journaled and I was really just in a really good place when I went into work this morning, but by the afternoon I could just feel every little thing starting to get under my skin. And that is when I know that it is time for a break, right? So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I hope that you all can take some time this weekend to just take a break and let yourself rejuvenate and recharge and have some fun. Do things that you love to do that fill your cup and make you happy because we all work hard and you definitely deserve it. And, you know, burnout is a real thing. And I've talked about it before on my podcast where burnout is it's really just something that we all have a tendency to experience at some point in our life. And it's because we hustle hard, we work hard, and we're not taking care of ourselves. We're not allowing ourselves to take a break. You know, we're just constantly go, go, go. And then we completely deplete ourselves. And I could say for me, when I get to that point, I kind of shut down and I try to pay more attention to that so that when I start to get the first, signs of burnout, one of them is irritability. I take the time to just recharge. And that's why I'm also incorporating a lot of more meditation in my daily practice again, because it always brings me to a place of calm. And it forces me to focus on my breathing and that deep breaths and inhaling and exhaling really is just, it's such a good release for stress and just takes everything off your shoulders and you feel so much lighter. So if you don't meditate, I highly recommend it. Definitely. So take care of yourselves this weekend. Have a good time. But that is not what I came here to talk about today. I want to talk about something that's on my heart, and that is the negative impacts of diet culture. And I see a lot of, and social media is always full of these fad diets. And there are so many of us that are sitting there wanting to lose weight. We tell ourselves that we are not, our bodies aren't beautiful enough, that we're fat, we're all these things. And we have it programmed in our mind that we are supposed to look a certain way, that our bodies are supposed to look a certain way. When I was in high school, I ate diet pills like they were candy, and I was anorexic, and I ended up being skin and bones, 114 pounds, very malnourished. I was starting to have some pretty significant health struggles in the process. And I truly believed that my worth and value were contingent on how I looked, how my body was, how thin I was. And the truth is my body structure is not really meant to be super thin. I have a body structure where I have wide shoulders, I have hips. I am not meant to be super skinny, and I recognize this, but there are still times, even now, where I get it into my mind that I need to lose weight. You have these charts, the BMI charts, that tell you that you are overweight if you are at a certain level. And I've also had my doctor tell me that my body is perfect the way it is and not to pay attention to that chart because it's it's really just bullshit, okay? Because at the end of the day, everybody's bodies are built differently. We are all different heights, we are all different shapes, we are our bones are built differently, our structure is different. There are some people that are meant to be thin, and there are people that are meant to have some damn meat on their bones. You know what I mean? I look weird if I get too thin. And I can say that I have been on that spectrum of the eating disorder with the anorexia. But then when I got sober, I replaced alcohol with food and I dove into an addiction to sweets and sugar. And I ended up becoming obese and I was almost 300 pounds. And, I was very unhealthy. I was unhealthy when I was thin. I was unhealthy when I was heavy. And it really took learning how to love myself before I could even get into the weight loss journey that I ended up being on. Because I had to learn how to accept myself when I was at my heaviest weight. And I was single at the time and doing these dating sites. And I would post pictures on my page, and I would tell anybody I talked to before we met, like, this is it. Like, I am a thick woman. I have meat on my bones. What you see in those photos is what you get. If you don't like it, that's fine, but this is who I am today, and this is where I'm at. And I really needed to be upfront with that because I accepted it. I knew when I had had enough and when I was ready, I would start taking better care of myself. I would lose the weight and I would take the action steps, but I wasn't there yet. I wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready to give up that lifestyle that I had where I enjoyed eating sweets, 2 desserts a day and driving around my car, chain smoking cigarettes when I was stressed out, blasting music. I loved sitting with my friends and hanging out and smoking cigarettes, and that was something that I really enjoyed at that point in time, knowing that I felt like shit. But I said, "When I'm ready, I'll address it." But this is where I am now, and I embraced who I was in that shell. And I think a lot of it was, for me, the weight was also shielding me from trauma and from all the things that I was suppressing because the food was doing the same thing for me that the alcohol did. It just kept So it's almost like the alcohol was numbing everything out for me, right? And it also protected me and shielded me from having to feel my feelings and face trauma, face those underlying issues that had been very hurtful and painful for me. And when I gave up alcohol, I felt very vulnerable, very exposed, and I wasn't comfortable with that. So I hid behind weight, the extra weight. It was a shield. And when I was ready to start facing those issues, I was really able to start losing the extra weight. And I'll get into that, you know, a little bit later on. But I mean, that's just really how it was. And when I started to lose weight, I started just by quitting smoking. And instead of driving around in my car to manage my stress, I went to the gym and I'd start exercising and going on the elliptical and the treadmill. And I started to lose a little bit of weight and I lost 10 pounds. And I was like, okay, cool. So then instead of my 20-ounce things of soda that I was drinking diet soda like it was water. Okay. I would have my big plastic cup and I would constantly fill it with diet soda and I barely drink water. So at this point, I'm ready to start introducing more water, getting hydrated, and start weaning out the soda. And when I want to have that carbonation, I would have seltzer, right? Because all seltzer is carbonated water. So I would have a seltzer, but I increased my water intake more and more. Now I lost another 10 pounds, or it's another 10 pounds. So now I'm down 20 pounds and I'm no longer having one dessert a day or two desserts a day. I'm having one and I'm starting to incorporate vegetables and more fruit. And I was slowly but surely introducing more nutritious foods into my diet and weaning out the junk. But I never completely eliminated it from my diet because I don't believe in depriving myself. And I feel like diet culture, I'm very much weary of it. I don't like taking supplements to lose weight. I don't like taking gummies. I don't like, you know, doing anything that isn't holistic, that's not from natural foods. Because the truth of the matter is, guys, that really all we need to do is eat less processed foods and introduce more whole foods into our diet. Food is medicine. If it's from the ground, it's good for you. It's really good for you, right? And it's full of nutrition, it's full of vitamins and nutrients and what our bodies need. So I don't take supplements when it comes to weight loss. I'm just not a big advocate for it. If it works for you, I fully support it. I think we all have to do what works better for us. But for me, it's just not something that I could do for myself. Like I tried the diet supplements, I tried the diet cultures. I even did those little pads, things that you stuck around your belly that was supposed to help you lose weight. But that was just me trying to be lazy doing it because I'm like, well, if I just wear this thing around my gut, it'll go away and I don't have to do the extra work because that was how my mind worked. It didn't work. I had to put in effort. And diet culture has several significant downsides, and many of which can have lasting negative impacts on our physical and our mental health. One of the things that diet culture it does is it has this unrealistic body standard. It's like I told you earlier when I was a teenager and I was starving myself and eating diet pills. I had it in my head that I needed to be thin, that my value was all centered around being thin, that I was only beautiful if I was thin. And it often promotes this ideal body type that is just not achievable or healthy for most people. And this can lead to body dissatisfaction, low self esteem, and an unhealthy obsession with weight and appearance. Do you find yourself constantly in the mirror looking at your body and shaming yourself because you're not a size 0? Are you constantly shaming yourself for not being 90 pounds soaking wet? And you're constantly obsessing about it and you're constantly weighing yourself, maybe 2, 3 times a day even. That is the unrealistic body standards that diet culture tends to create. And it can really lead into disordered eating habits, like eating disorders, like labeling food as good or bad. That can contribute to disordered eating behaviors. Um, it could develop patterns of binge eating or full-blown eating disorders like anorexia, bulimia. These are this is dangerous. And what these disorders do to our bodies, organ failure, or oral health issues. I've seen it working in the dental field for 23 years. What I've what has happened when you're bulimic for a number of years, what that can do to your dental health, and then the issues that come along with it, bone loss, losing your teeth altogether, having to go into dentures, and dentures are not, they're just not a sustainable replacement for your teeth. I work for a specialty called prosthodontics. I work for a prosthodontist. His specialty is reconstructive dentistry, cosmetic dentistry. He works a lot with dentures. And he will tell patients right off the bat that they are not a sustainable source of replacement. That it's just not sustainable for your teeth. And people struggle with adjusting to dentures, and sometimes they get them and they don't function with them well. Some of them will get them for cosmetics, but they can't eat with them. And then eventually they just stop wearing them. And all because somewhere along the way, they had it in their mind that their worth and value was contingent on being thin, and they fell into that diet culture and started with disordered eating habits and ended up going into full-blown bulimia. And a lot of this can affect your mental health. Diet culture, it fosters a negative relationship with food and body. And it can lead to stress, anxiety, guilt, and shame around eating. Like, do you ever find yourself having a slice of pizza for dinner or 2 slices of pizza for dinner? Or maybe you go out to dinner and you order a dessert and you eat it, and then you stop and you'd say, "Oh God, I hate myself. Why did I do that? Why did I eat that?" Right? Like, "Oh, I'm not eating tomorrow. I'm just gonna starve myself tomorrow." That is unhealthy. That is very detrimental to not only your physical health, but your mental health. The thing is that you can have a dessert and it's okay. You can have that second slice of pizza and it's okay. So, depriving yourself of those things only can lead to it can backfire. It really can backfire. You completely, totally eliminate cookies from your diet, and then you sit down one day, or you come home from the grocery store with a thing of Oreo cookies for your husband or your kids, and you decide to have one. Next thing you know, you've had that whole box because you've deprived yourself from this for so long. It tastes so damn good, you lose all self-control and you just eat the whole damn thing, the whole box of cookies. because you have gone 6 months without having any type of dessert. No cake, no brownie, no cookies, no nothing. You know, you can't deprive yourself. There is a healthy balance, and you can allow yourself to enjoy food. Yes, you have to keep it with, obviously, you know, within limits, within means, within a health there you can have that healthy relationship with food, and you can be happy that you did it. Believe me, I am somebody who has sat there, and this has happened even within the last couple months, where I probably ate more than I should have, and I was feeling more full than I really wanted to be. I wasn't comfortable. I definitely overdid it. And I said to myself, I'm not eating tomorrow. I can't believe I did that. Oh, I'm never eating again. I hate myself. Or, that stuff has come to my mind, and I have even found myself saying it. And then I stop myself and I'm like, no, I did not work hard to have a healthy life and be in a healthy place mentally and emotionally to start shaming myself. So when I find myself, like, if I eat too much at dinner, instead of just beating myself up and telling myself I hate myself, you know, I just try to be mindful to not do it again, right? Try to be mindful to slow down, you know, and just tell myself that I'm a human being, that it's okay, you know. Is it good to overeat? Absolutely not. It's really not, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Or going to dinner and then having a dessert later, and then you just sit there and tell yourself, "Oh, I wish I never did that because it's so bad." I have even found myself, like, we have patients that'll bring treats into the dental office and making comments about trying to justify why I'm going to have that cookie that they brought in. And almost like I feel embarrassed if I'm even caught having it because, you know, it's not healthy, it's not good, you know what I mean? I don't eat that stuff. Somebody will say, "I don't eat that stuff. It's not." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, well, I really, didn't have much to eat today, so I'm okay having a cookie. I just like to have a little taste, just a little taste." And it's like, that is the mentality of diet culture creeping up on me. And the reason I share that openly is because I still catch myself reverting back to these patterns and behaviors that I worked so hard to get away from. Because for me, acceptance is key. Accepting that, okay, I had a cookie. So what? It was good. I'm not going to lay on my deathbed and say, I wish I never enjoyed that cookie. That's not going to happen. And I'm not going to lay on my deathbed and say, I wish I never had that slice of birthday cake. Those are things I'm just not going to think about when I'm on my deathbed. I'm not going to regret making those choices. I would regret if I was dying because I didn't take care of my body and I didn't do my very best to give it the nutrients that it needed, and I wound up making myself very sick. Then I would probably have some regrets, but not for having a healthy relationship with food. You know what I mean? And there really is that disregard for health and well-being in the diet culture. And this can lead to people engaging in unhealthy behaviors, such as the ones I just described. And then there's um that the weight stigma, right? Like having to be a certain number of the scale in order for it to be acceptable. And if it's not acceptable, then you need to work harder to try to lose more weight. Um, And that could really have some serious psychological consequences, you know? And let's not forget how, like I said before, everybody's bodies are different. Like my body is not meant to be a size zero. I will never see a size zero. When I lost my weight from when I was almost 300 pounds, I got down to 150. Now, it wasn't in a short period of time. My journey started at the end of 2017, I think, somewhere in 2017. I can't remember right now. And I hit that 150 pounds, that 150-pound weight loss. I hit that in during COVID, 2020. So it took me like 3 years because in 2018, when I started having flashbacks from trauma and I was diagnosed with PTSD, I was putting all of my energy into healing and working through that. And the thing is when I was able to work through that trauma and heal myself from that trauma, the weight started to come off a lot easier because I was no longer holding on to that and keeping it pent up inside. So here it is 2020. I get on the scale. I've lost 150 pounds and I was so full of joy and happiness. But the one thing I realized is I didn't necessarily like myself that thin. When I hit 150 pounds of my weight, I got on the scale. I was 150. And I didn't like how I looked. I felt like when I went like this, my neck, you could see everything in my neck. You could really see my collarbone. And it just, to me, I felt like it made me look a little aged. It just wasn't a comfortable thing for me. So eventually I started to put a little bit more weight on. So am I still that weight? No. I have put on a little more weight since then. Um, but I'm really okay with where I am right now. Would I like to be more tone? Yes. Would I like to have some of that flabby skin that still remains from the weight loss, that loose arm skin? Yeah. I would love to be able to tone it in a healthy way because I love to exercise. I love the way I feel when I exercise. I love the way I feel after I lift some weights. It just feels good. And it really does raise that serotonin. It's like a natural um antidepressant because you're increasing your serotonin and you're just feeling so good and you feel confident afterwards and you feel stronger afterwards. And I don't just like lifting weights. I like doing yoga. I like doing, I like to even sometimes put on workouts that you just dance to, like Pilates, because I like to dance, right? I like going for walks. So I have a vast variety of different exercises that I like to do. But the one thing I had to do was get to a place where I was doing it for the right reasons. And that's because I have a lot of fun doing it in the way I feel. I chose healthiness over thin. I wanted to not only be healthy in my mind, but I wanted my body to be healthy as well. Health and wellness goes far more deeper than losing weight. And one of the things that I was inspired by with Solana Lewis was, here's a woman who, you would look at her, and if you have that mentality, like if you're thinking about size. Big. Hold on, I gotta get a sip of water. Okay. So this woman is a power lifter. You should see the amount of weight that this woman can lift. She's a world champion. She coaches others on powerlifting. But when you look at her, she's got this, she looks, you would say thin, right? You'd say thin. She is rock solid muscle. And when you are lifting weights and you become rock solid muscle, the scale does not go down, it goes up. That is good weight gain because it's muscle gain, right? So you'll get on the scale and you'll see it going up. And guess what? When you're lifting weights, you have to eat. You have to eat. You have to fuel your body. It's not good to put your body into a place of starvation. Do you know what happens for me when I go too long without having food? Like, I like to have something to eat in the morning. I like to fuel my body up so that when I get to work, I have the energy. I'm not hungry when I first wake up in the morning. I'm not hungry for at least 2 or 3 hours. So I'll have something when I get to work. And then we work through, we don't have a lunch break. There's no scheduled lunch where I work. Okay. You try to eat in between. And there are days where I might get to have a quick snack. And then by the time the end of the day comes, I am so hungry. I will come home and I will find myself reaching for whatever I can get my hands on. And it's like I'm binging. I have caught myself doing this before. And I have to say that it bothers me. It truly bothers me because I don't believe in that. So I will sit down and I will allow myself to enjoy having my lunch, and do the best I can and just to be able to eat. Like, slowly chew your food because chewing is an important part of digestion. Standing up and eating is not healthy. It's not good for you. It's just not. You need to sit down, chew your food before you swallow it. That is healthy digestion. That is gut health 101, kids. So that is and then what ends up happening is, your body starts to store all this food as fat because it's in starvation mode, right? So imagine if I've only gone like several hours without eating, what happens if you go several days or a full day and you're in that starvation mode? Whatever you're eating, is probably not going to be something good for you because when you get that hungry, you're more than likely not going to reach for an apple. You're going to do what I did and binge. So the one thing I would suggest doing, and this is something that I do, is to be aware of these things. Be aware of, when you like catching yourself going into that place of, binging because you're hungry or allowing yourself to get into a mode of starvation. Be aware of the habits that you have formed. If you're catching yourself standing in your bedroom mirror and shaming yourself, stop. Stop. You are exactly where you are supposed to be, how you are supposed to be in this moment. You are lovable. You are valuable. You are worthy. You do not need to be a smaller size or a lesser weight to be valuable, to be worthy, to be beautiful, to be acceptable, to be loved. If you're surrounding yourself around people that are not loving and respecting you and seeing your value in the form and shape that you are today, that they are not your people, you deserved better. You are better than that. We have to get away from this diet culture. And we have to focus on health and well being. And a big part of that starts with acceptance, self acceptance. And when you have self acceptance, you can have self love. There's an entire chapter in it in my ebook, Becoming Whole, A Path to Self Love, which is available um, on my books, I'm sorry, my online bookshop. And the link is at the top of my YouTube page, and I will put it in the description. Get your hands on it. It is 3 chapters of awesomeness on how to love yourself. And it all starts with that self-acceptance. I truly believe if I did not have self-acceptance, I don't know how my weight loss journey would have been. Because at the end of the day, it really truly started with me just wanting to be healthy. I was sick and tired of being a cigarette smoker. I was sick and tired of not being able to walk up a flight of stairs without losing my breath. I was sick and tired of feeling like crap 24/7. I was sick of it. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. It was my health that motivated me. And then I started surrounding myself around people that prioritized their health too. And we had a blast working out together, an absolute blast. And I learned a lot from them. And I bet you're wondering, how do I even start finding self acceptance? You make it sound so easy. Affirmations, sitting in your bedroom mirror every morning, even though you may not believe it at first, and telling yourself, I am worthy. I am valuable. My body is strong. My body has carried me through difficult times. I am lovable. You can write them down on a piece of paper and stick them on your bathroom mirror. So every day when you are getting ready for work, it's right there in front of you. And you say it every day over and over and over again, and retrain your brain. Because when you start to, when you train your brain to have those positive and loving thoughts, you start to believe it. There is so much power in the way we think. And when we start to believe it, we start to make changes in our lives to align with how we see ourselves and what we believe. You no longer want, so let's say you see yourself as, you have, you're lacking confidence. You see yourself in a certain way, in a negative way. And you don't see yourself as beautiful as you are, or you know, you're shaming your body. You surround yourself around an atmosphere, you create this atmosphere where that aligns perfectly with the way you're thinking. But if you start to believe in yourself, believe that you're worthy, believe that you're beautiful, and you learn to love your body the way it is by training your thoughts and your mind, because your brain doesn't know the difference between negative and positive. It just doesn't. So you really kind of have to work on this, because if you're telling yourself that I'm not beautiful, that I'm not thin, that I'm not worthy, your brain doesn't know that that's wrong and negative. So if you're training your brain to believe that you are beautiful, that you are worthy, that you are valuable, now your behaviors and your choices will start to align with that. I am healthy, right? Telling yourself I am healthy. And when you start to believe that, you are no longer making unhealthy decisions. You're making choices to get yourself to a healthier place in your life. Maybe it's starting to go for daily walks or going to the gym and working out for 30 minutes on the treadmill. Affirmations. That's where it starts. Training your brain to think and believe differently. You deserve it. I see you, and I know the struggle. I believe in you. And this is where I end this episode. Thank you so much for joining. If you are struggling with getting yourself started on your health and wellness journey and you want to dive into this a little bit deeper, connect with me. You can find me on Facebook under Lori A. Murphy, Empowerment Coach for Women, or you can email me at M as in Michael, C, empowerment@gmail.com. This will also be in the description of this episode. So please connect with me. Let's have a conversation and let's see if we can get you started on a journey that is going to transform your life, because you are worth it. Until then, let go of fear and let your spirit shine.